It's just so windy. Now it's calming a little. I'm right in the Harris Canyon wind tunnel. These books I'm taking to my son, Hagen, who's 17, because he wanted books that might change his life. And I was like, well, then you should just read really good fiction then. So not exactly like that. So I picked this one to give him like inspiration, like see yourself as the hero of your own story, you know? Dare to dream and all that cheesy good stuff. And then this I got because it's just a really powerful memoir and it's a lot of fun and it's funny and interesting and irreverent. And I think it might help him see his own life as something worth writing about and thinking about. I was thinking about A Tree Grows in Brooklyn and Karamazov, and those books can change your life. And then I thought I'd add Into the Wild because this book changed my life. And I don't think it'll change his life in the same way, but it is a great look at, a lot of key things that young men deal with growing up and lots of people deal with. Inner wildness and proving oneself and masculinity and all these different things. Just nature. What's your connection with nature? What's your connection with society? Good questions. Into the Wild. I think that's a nice trifecta of books to give the old kiddo. This one's going to a free box because the paperback project is a Culling limited project. Can't fit on this case. It's not part of the paperback project. Though I was thinking, what if I stacked additional books on the tops of the bottom 3 shelves? Maybe like 10 books, take it to 200. I don't know, I kind of want to keep it clean. And again. And then this one, I'm reading The Secret Sharer again. I'm about 2/3 through it, and it's so good. Rereading is such a great thing to do if you want to get depth out of a work, and reading supporting texts and just thinking about it and living with it. But this video is probably titled something about nonfiction, so let's keep going through these nonfiction shelves. Why? There is no why, as Philip Petit said, walking between the towers of the World Trade Center in the 70s. If you want to see those other books talked about, watch previous videos. This happened once before that like all comments just stopped on the channel. Like it just suddenly felt like a big empty room a little bit. Like, who am I talking to? This is kind of a beautiful, look at this. Beautiful paperback of its day, $2.95. History of Civilization, Volume 2, since 1648. Yeah. Quick review, and to the point. Elizabeth Benedict. Is she a Jane Austen character? He owned this. I need to get Volume 1 then. They're like a complete set. Keep my eye open. This feels so like low quality, paper quality, but it's still here. 1962 and 63, so it says. Beautiful. I love a book like this. I want to know all the things. Looks like it's marked up a little bit by a previous owner. Oh my gosh. Oh, I know what collection this came from. There was something pornographic in there. Okay, I'm going to throw that out off camera. Hilarious. This was from a Catholic school teacher's collection. Ha ha ha. I keep finding surprises from that collection. Okay, this looks good. Solitude. A return to the self. Well, this just seems like a good topic. I spent a bit of time with solitude. If I were to put all the extended periods of time I'd spent alone together, there might be a year there. Because I've had many like week or 2 week long chapters. Okay, I got this from a free box. But it's right up my alley. The longest period alone was in 1999 and 2000 on Lake Powell, canoeing around the circumference of it. For 1 full month of the winter, I didn't see a single person. And it's a real refiner's fire, solitude. It does some crazy stuff to you. I think it's good overall. Kind of makes you insane. Like, I literally met people halfway through my canoe trip when I was in this town, Page, Arizona, at the south end of the lake, because I was just talking to myself and everybody thought I was talking to them. Talking to me? Oh, no, I'm just insane. Sorry. Want to be friends? Then on Lake Havasu in Arizona, where they have the original London Bridge. Maybe. That's a good topic. I like a book on a topic. I should read this sometime. And maybe a Period of Solitude would be interesting. It's a very interesting book. Prompt and Utter Destruction, Truman and the Use of the Atomic Bombs Against Japan. It really examines that question in a lean, hard-hitting style. This was one of the texts we read in Literature of the Atomic Bomb, a class taught by the famous writer Gerald Wisner. Concise account. That was an unusual class, and then it kind of was taught with a twist. It seemed like we were going to the conclusion that the bomb should never have been dropped. And by the end, it was they had to be. What? Girl always tries to go inside this Van Gogh painting. Probably if I wasn't here, she would have done it successfully. She was just pawing at it a whole lot. Okay, now you're on camera, you won't do it? But that was a really fascinating class. And I'll never forget going to the local atomic museum. We have a famous museum here with tons of original things from atomic history. But it definitely has an industry perspective. Many of the docents who work there, are kind of apologists for the industry. For instance, and just, for the empire a little bit. But they had a whole room on the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the docent tried to chase us away from there. Interesting, and and we dropped leaflets on the whole place to warn him first, and we had just learned in that class that that was totally a myth, and that it was perpetuated by a movie starring Jimmy Stewart. Anyway, lots of misinformation out there still. I don't regret the time I spent with that subject in that class, though. It was an interesting class. Friend Ty was in there. Samantha Ann Carrillo, the writer, was in there. Gerald Wiesner was teaching it. Everybody was it was cool. And we were in New Mexico learning this, and everyone had some personal connection to the topic, it seemed. I mean, I've driven on the freeway here and seen just a nuclear missile on a flatbed vehicle. What? That could be nothing else. That could be nothing else. Anytime the news gets worrisome, there's an uptake in creepy military vehicles and box things being moved through town. Years ago, I got to go to Family Day on the base around here and saw this warehouse. I mean, am I even allowed to talk about this? Saw it on the Family Day tour, so it's probably okay. There's this warehouse where it's just robot arms putting machine guns onto tank treads. And it seemed like acres of it. It was like Synecdoche, New York, staring out across it. I was like, what? It's good that kind of stuff's going on. And AI is just improving itself constantly. All those sci-fi books turned out to be warnings. Crazy. I worry that culturally we're getting farther and farther away from the reality of nuclear war. I hear Denis Villeneuve wants to remake Threads. Or at least maybe it's just a movie about nuclear destruction. Maybe every generation needs that sort of thing, a day after type thing. Scare people away from the use of it. It sure scared me as a kid. A movie about nuclear war. Or as I like to call it, Joyce Hampton. Joyce Hampton. They used it at a thrift store. But I watched it as a kid and was traumatized. As a really little kid. Oh, also Adam, a story of child kidnapping and murder. My sister was a great babysitter. I mean, she was. But, yeah. No, I only saw Adam when she was babysitting. I saw the day after with my dad on a business trip. He would take this or that kid with him when he would go on trips. So we'd he was a playground salesperson, so we got to go to playgrounds, basically. That was a pretty cool thing. Oh, the kitties. Anyway, traffic. Why we drive the way we do. Figured I should read this. Traffic is a weird state, we all dance this balletic dance every day in giant vehicles. I think of cars as like Iron Man suits. They're like our cyber suits. Suddenly you can go really fast and you're protected, you're armored. You can adapt the climate of your immediate surroundings and even what you hear or what you see, now with all these screens and stuff. I wonder if windshields are ever going to be like Minority Report or something where it's like all full of computer technology. Swiping this or that, press over here to dim it, increase or decrease the tint. Anyway, I always think about that billboard that's like, you're complaining about traffic. You are traffic. Because it is something that like anyone interested in urban planning might find themselves thinking about. It's how cities change, these minimum parking requirements, and you got to have the streets. I mean, like Route 66 seemed to be such a cool American phenomenon. This road from Chicago to Santa Monica. It used the main streets of all the cities and towns it passed through so that it brought business and life to them. It showed people actual places when they traveled. And the freeways bypassed everything. And they were built because Route 66 was so popular, in part. And so there was a need to move more vehicles, but maybe we should have scaled back at that point. A little more European and less American. Or a little more indigenous American. Like, we don't have to keep scaling up, do we? I always think it's so cool when a street gets closed off. You just watch it like spring to life. But then some closed off streets, they're not well managed. Like there was a great street in Las Cruces, and it was just kind of a ghost town all the time. I always thought, why don't people hang out in this tree shaded area, In part it's because Las Cruces gets so hot. It was underused, and so it just became another street, and now that bookstore faces busy traffic. Coas Books. This looks like one of those cool books you'd probably get a lot out of and take a few things away from. What are books, Why do we read them? A book I really love is How to Be Stupid by Martin Amis. This guy tries to avoid all things of the intellect for a long time, thinking it's the source of all his misery. And he just starts like eating McDonald's and going to the gym and trying to be as like normal as possible. And his friends send him a package that contains Flaubert's collected letters, which was always one of his favorite intellectual works, and he just starts crying at how beautiful it is. And maybe that's what all this stuff's about. Books, Firing up the old neurons. Looked at this book before, but it got moved over because there was a gap in the shelf where some science books had been. Things get moved. Now there's some more books in the science section. And the shelf's getting pretty sparse. But that's good. That means if I get large-sized nonfiction, I have a place to put it. And again, a book collection should grow to fill its container, I don't know. What do I think of this book? The Arts and Sciences of Human Inequality. Yeah, I'll read this sometime. I'm like, this is one of the weirder books I own. I don't quite get it. I've read the back and the front, and I'm like, what's it about? I've picked it up and maybe even started it once or twice. Maybe I just like this cover image. Pencil of Nature, An American Tale. Tabula Rasa. I know a student at the high school I work at now whose mom won't let her have skull imagery anywhere, like for religious reasons. Thinks it's invites bad omens or deaths or spirits or something. From Albuquerque's South Valley. What is this book? Guess it's about stereotypes? Well, maybe it's just one of those wild books you gotta read and then you're like, that was cool. I've heard at least one person say it's great. Started to look at this in a video that cut off. I had to empty some trash containers on my phone. But yeah, I agree with National Geographic Adventure. Best adventure story ever. They named this book that once in a list of 100 best adventure books. It's just so miserable. They're out in the middle of nowhere. They're getting emperor penguin eggs on this side expedition of Scott's doomed expedition. And it's just so miserable and cold. And they've got ice blisters under their skin. And they can't sleep because it's so cold. And their spines are chattering constantly. And yikes. I mean, Scott's main expedition would die just because they couldn't thaw their food out. Ugh. But these cats would be like camping out there and then their tent would just blow away in a blizzard forever, and they'd see it just blow off into the far horizon. Like, great, we have no protection from the elements now. I mean, they show an insane character, and the main character, the narrator of this book, is a really fascinating figure because he has terrible eyesight and he can't wear his glasses because they fog up instantly in Antarctica. So he's like near blind in a crazy wild blur this whole time. This is not a scratching post, but this is a great one. This was one of those books that on the walk across the country I was fortunate enough to be a part of in 2001. That we all read. This book got passed around. We all became Antarctic obsessed a little bit. My email address for a long time was Antarctic Suburbs because of this, and because of the story of Shackleton, which I discovered that same year. I felt like all the world is the suburbs for the city of Antarctica. Because words don't mean anything, right? What? Book cat. So that was the rest of that shelf of nonfiction. There's 2 more shelves. All right, and they're back home where they belong. Yeah, this is going to be a very eccentrically organized, but still not alphabetized or categorized on like a Dewey Decimal level collection. I do kind of love the idea of all the shelves growing to like be completely full of whatever their topic is. If I have too many, but not enough for an overflow section, then I just keep pruning. I like the idea of the collection growing in quality, not just in number. So cute, squirrel. My daughter's going to be staying in this room for a little while, maybe a month or 2, before she prepares to go to Germany, starting in July. Once all these kids' books out of this shelf here, so I think I need to get another small shelf for the hallway, or for in here, but just she needs that for her closet. I think that'd be a great place for a bookcase, and I love the symbolism of walking through books into the bedroom. That's such a cool idea. I'm going to sell this old dining room table. It was my family's old dining room table. Put the TV on a narrower thing that's just on that wall, and then have a small bookcase right there. My kids say I need beanbags if I really want to make it social, like the people could come over and watch movies and stuff. So yeah, I'll probably get either a chair or a couple of beanbags. Chair could go there. I mean, it's not ideal for the books, but so what, So maybe beanbag is the way to go. And I think I want plants hanging in all the corners, and maybe building silks on the ceiling and rugs as much as I can. I land this better teaching job that's like got like a real salary this fall. I'm gonna put some of it into making this place just cool. I'm starting to watch this YouTube video on Amy Sedaris' 2-bedroom apartment in New York. You can do a lot with a small space. Sure, it helps if you're rich from the entertainment industry. Not there yet. Yeah, I've said it in the early videos, but like, this is not like a wealthy person's book collection. This is a 2-bedroom apartment book collection. But we do have the Kitty Human Book Club that meets here regularly. It's just me and the 2 cats. But there might be a 3rd cat added soon for a little while. So yeah, we looked at all this nonfiction already. I think I looked at that first, even though this is kind of a nonfiction overflow in my mind. And this big case is the big nonfiction case. And we looked at all the right side, and now we're looking at the left side going down. And we got those 2 shelves back there still to look at. The description for this YouTube channel says something like, exploring the world of books and reading through one person's book collection and reading life. That sounds legit, right? That's kind of what we're doing here a little bit, with a lot of digressions, but even the digressions underline that a reading life properly lived should be entwined with your actual life. It should augment and aid, not substitute and replace, Caligula knew that. What a guy. Great. Oh, no, wait, I'm thinking of someone else. Prisma. Hi. A sweeper. I'm sad that I don't think I can ever read all the books I own. Anyway. anyone studying the oxygenation of cells and human immortality, digitization of consciousness, anything like that? Come on, get on it. I just know I'm going to be in like one of the last generations before those big discoveries. Great. You know. So I guess I'll just jump back into the cosmic jet stream, man.